Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, first published in 1932, is one of the most influential works of dystopian literature, set in a technologically advanced future where human beings are genetically engineered, socially conditioned, and kept content through pleasure and consumption. The novel explores the consequences of sacrificing individuality and freedom for stability. Through the experiences of Bernard Marx, Lenina, Crowne, John the Savage, and others, Huxley presents a thought-provoking vision of a society that has eliminated suffering at the cost of humanity itself. Huxley's literary style combines satire, philosophical inquiry, and speculative fiction with sharp social commentary. His elegant prose, ironic tone, and vivid world-building create a society that is both fascinating and deeply unsettling. Rather than depicting oppression through fear alone, Huxley examines how comfort, entertainment, and technological control can become equally powerful tools for limiting human freedom. The novel explores themes of individuality, free will, technological progress, consumerism, social conditioning, the pursuit of happiness, the conflict between civilization and human nature, and the price of sacrificing truth for stability. Nearly a century after its publication, Brave New World remains remarkably relevant, challenging readers to consider whether a perfectly comfortable society is worth the loss of personal freedom, authentic relationships, and the capacity for independent thought. The story starts with a group of students touring the Central London Hatchery and Conditioning Centre in the year AF 632, a future age measured from the time of Henry IV. The director of hatcheries and conditioning proudly shows them how the world state manufactures human life. Babies are no longer born from mothers. Instead, eggs are fertilized in laboratories, grown in bottles, and prepared from the start for the social rank they will occupy. This society is divided into 5 castes: alphas, betas, gammas, deltas, and epsilons. The higher castes are designed for more complex work, while the lower castes are deliberately weakened before birth, so they will be satisfied with repetitive labor. Through processes like cloning, chemical treatment, oxygen restriction, and heat conditioning, the world state turns people into products. Every child is shaped to want the life chosen for them, and this system supports the society's central promise: community, identity, and stability. The students next see how children are trained after birth. In the nurseries, Delta babies are drawn toward books and flowers, then frightened with alarms and shocks until they learn to hate them. The goal is practical and cold. Books may encourage independent thought, while nature does not make people buy enough goods. The world state wants citizens to consume, not reflect. It also uses sleep teaching to plant moral lessons in children's minds, teaching each caste to feel proud of itself and suspicious or contemptuous of the others. As the tour continues, Mustapha Mond, one of the powerful world controllers, explains the logic behind this civilization. The old world, with families, religion, art, history, and deep emotional attachments, created conflict and pain. After war and social collapse, the world state chooses stability over freedom. It abolishes the family, suppresses old books, replaces religion with worship of Ford, and provides soma, a drug that removes distress whenever life becomes uncomfortable. People stay young, entertained, distracted, and emotionally shallow because the system fears any feeling strong enough to disturb order. Within this world lives Bernard Marx, an alpha plus who never feels fully at home in his own caste. He is smaller and less confident than other alphas, and rumors suggest something may have gone wrong while he was developing in his bottle. Bernard dislikes the casual way other men talk about women, especially Lenina Crowne, a woman he wants to take to a savage reservation. Lenina is attractive, well-conditioned, and socially conventional, though she is curious enough to accept Bernard's invitation. Bernard's closest friend is Helmholtz Watson, another alpha plus who feels dissatisfied for different reasons. Helmholtz is intelligent, handsome, and successful, but his job-writing propaganda leaves him empty. He senses that language could do something deeper than produce slogans. Bernard and Helmholtz are both outsiders, but Bernard's loneliness comes largely from insecurity, while Helmholtz's comes from having a mind too restless for the society around him. Before leaving for the reservation, Bernard spends time with Lenina, but their differences quickly show. Lenina expects pleasure, soma, and easy physical intimacy. Bernard wants solitude, seriousness, and a feeling of individuality. When he stops their helicopter over the dark water of the channel and talks about silence, Lenina is frightened. He eventually gives in, takes soma, and sleeps with her, though afterward, he claims he wanted something more mature and meaningful. Bernard asks the director for permission to visit the reservation. During the meeting, the director unexpectedly reveals that he once went there with a woman who disappeared during a storm. Embarrassed by his own emotional confession, he turns harsh and threatens to send Bernard to Iceland if Bernard continues behaving strangely. At first, Bernard feels proud to be seen as a rebel, but when Helmholtz later tells him that the director truly plans to exile him, Bernard panics. At the Savage Reservation, Lenina is shocked by what she sees. The people there grow old, suffer pain, raise families, practice rituals, and live outside the world state's control. During a ceremony, a young man is whipped until he collapses, and Lenina is horrified. There, Bernard and Lenina meet John, a young man with blonde hair who speaks fluent English. John explains that his mother, Linda, came from the civilized world years earlier and became stranded on the reservation after an accident. When Bernard meets Linda, he realizes the truth. Linda is the woman the director lost, and John is the director's son. Linda's life on the reservation has been miserable. She was conditioned to behave like a citizen of the world state, so the local women hate her for sleeping with their men. She also gives birth to John because her contraception fails, and she feels too ashamed to return to civilization as a mother. Over the years, she becomes isolated, unhealthy, and addicted to mezcal, while John grows up rejected by the villagers because of both his mother and his outsider identity. John's imagination is shaped by two worlds that never truly accept him. Linda tells him stories about the world state, making it sound magical and beautiful, but she cannot really explain how it works. She teaches him to read, and when her lover Popeye brings home a copy of Shakespeare, John finds words for emotions he has never been able to name. Shakespeare becomes his moral and emotional language. Through those plays, he learns ideas of love, honor, jealousy, shame, beauty, and tragedy. Bernard sees an opportunity. If he brings John and Linda back to London, he can disgrace the director by revealing that the director has fathered a child, one of the most obscene facts imaginable in this society. John agrees to go, but only if Linda comes too. He is thrilled by the thought of finally seeing the world his mother described, though Bernard warns him not to admire it too quickly. Back in London, the director prepares to publicly dismiss Bernard as a warning to others. But Bernard turns the humiliation against him. He brings in Linda and John, and Linda accuses the director of abandoning her. Then John falls before the director and calls him his father. The word turns the room into chaos. Everyone laughs. The director is ruined, and Bernard suddenly becomes famous as the man who has brought the savage into civilized society. John becomes a sensation. Important people want to see him, and Bernard enjoys the popularity that comes with controlling access to him. For the first time, Bernard has status, sexual attention, and confidence, but his success makes him shallow and arrogant. He even neglects Helmholtz, who sees through his vanity. Linda, meanwhile, is given as much soma as she wants and disappears into a drugged half-life, choosing chemical comfort over the painful reality of her return. John is fascinated by the world state at first, but disgust soon overwhelms him. He sees identical workers, empty pleasures, and people who avoid grief, love, and real thought. His early excitement turns bitter. He refuses soma, visits Linda often, and recoils from the way civilized people treat suffering and death as problems to be conditioned away. Lenina becomes attracted to John, but she cannot understand him. She expects desire to lead directly to sex, while John views love through Shakespeare, romance, sacrifice, and marriage. After they attend a feely together, John is stirred by his desire for her, but ashamed of it. Lenina is confused when he refuses to sleep with her. Later, When she visits him and tries to seduce him, John reacts with anger and panic. He declares his love but is horrified by her casual sexuality. When she undresses, he insults and strikes her, then leaves after receiving a call about his mother. John rushes to the Park Lane Hospital for the dying, where Linda is near death. He grieves openly beside her, trying to remember the mother he loved beneath all the damage. A group of conditioned children stare at Linda's aging body and ask rude questions because they are being trained not to fear death. John cannot bear their coldness. Linda wakes only briefly, mistakes him for Popeye, a Native American man from the Savage Reservation who became Linda's lover after she was accidentally stranded there, then recognizes him for a moment and dies. John's grief erupts, while the nurses worry mainly that his reaction may disturb the children's conditioning. In the hospital lobby, John sees Delta workers receiving their Soma ration. Still shaken by Linda's death, he sees the drug as a tool of slavery. He calls on the workers to reject it and choose freedom, then throws their Soma out the window. The Deltas respond with fury, and a riot begins. Helmholtz arrives and immediately helps John fight, excited by the chance to act on something real. Bernard, terrified, hesitates and tries to stay out of it. The police arrive, calm the crowd with Soma vapor and soothing messages, and arrest John, Helmholtz, and Bernard. The three men are taken to Mustapha Mond. John challenges the world state, and Mond answers him with calm intelligence. Mond has read Shakespeare and understands exactly what has been sacrificed. He explains that great art is banned because it is old, powerful, and tied to emotions the world state no longer allows. Tragedy, passion, and beauty cannot exist in a society built to keep everyone comfortable and controllable. People are kept happy, but only by making their lives smaller. John argues that humans need struggle, dignity, moral choice, and truth. Mond replies that a stable society cannot allow everyone to be an alpha, because someone must do dull work and still be content with it. He also explains that science is limited, even though people are taught to worship it, because true inquiry might threaten social order. New inventions are accepted only when they serve stability, consumption, and control. Bernard and Helmholtz are sentenced to exile. Bernard collapses into begging, but Mond explains that exile is actually a kind of mercy. The islands hold people who cannot fit into the world state, which means Helmholtz will live among independent minds. Helmholtz accepts this and chooses the Falkland Islands, believing a harsher climate may help him write something meaningful. Bernard, by contrast, reveals how little courage stands behind his rebellion. John continues debating Mond about religion and the human soul. Mond shows him forbidden religious writings and argues that religion becomes unnecessary in a world without old age, poverty, loneliness, or deep loss. John rejects this. To him, comfort without nobility is not enough. He wants God, poetry, danger, freedom, goodness, and even sin. Mond warns him that these things bring suffering. John accepts the cost because he believes a real human life requires more than painless happiness. John asks to go into exile with Helmholtz and Bernard, but Mond refuses. He wants to keep watching John as an experiment, so John escapes on his own, retreating to an abandoned lighthouse in the countryside. There he tries to purify himself from civilization by growing food, living simply, and punishing his body whenever he feels desire or guilt. He wants solitude, discipline, and repentance, but the world state turns even his suffering into entertainment. Reporters discover him, and the public becomes fascinated by the sight of the savage whipping himself. A filmed version of his self-punishment becomes a popular feelie, and crowds descend on the lighthouse demanding to watch. John is trapped once again by the society he hates. When Lenina arrives in a helicopter, he lashes out at her and at his own desire, striking her with the whip while the crowd turns the scene into a frenzied spectacle. The people imitate him, chant, dance, and transform his anguish into another empty pleasure. The next morning, John wakes and remembers what happened with horror. He has tried to reject the world state, but even his private shame has been consumed by it. When curious visitors return to the lighthouse, they find that John has hanged himself. His death closes the story as a bleak warning. A society that removes pain, choice, memory, and moral struggle may produce comfort, but it also destroys the very things that make people fully human.